Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome to Uncommon Sense. I'm Junia Doan. Thank you for joining us. My guest today is Kurt Faust. Kurt is the founder of Step Up Sports Academy and the author of Step Up and Coach Soccer. So welcome, Kurt. It seems to me that you've wanted to be a leader in a lot of ways. Tell me about the two things I mentioned, the book and the academy.
The book and the academy go hand in hand. They're basically part of a leadership model that I started working on. I've been coaching for 31 years now, starting my 32nd year of coaching. Also being in the high schools and being in public education, I think that leadership is so broad, but I think that we're changing as a culture, and I really think there's some key components that need to come out and we need to reestablish and for future leaders in this society.
What have you noticed? What are you seeing?
I just think that you've got an explosion of technology. So I think two things are starting to happen. We as a society, our way that we communicate and interact with each other changes. But what we're missing is that important aspect of being relational. You and I being here having this conversation eye to eye can be pretty frightening for some young people now, because they're easily texting or using computers and things like that. But this one-on-one directional is a form of leadership that we need to continue to take off life support and understand that this is a success life skill for everyone.
What makes it intimidating?
I think lack of practice, like anyone. If you're out of shape athletically, you're going to fail. If you're out of shape relationally, you're going to struggle as well. And we are limiting our opportunities for people to be relational in terms of intimately.
Do you think you look directly in my eyes, which I like, because I tend to do the same in reverse. But sometimes I feel that makes people very uncomfortable.
Again, I just counter by saying that that's part of what we've got to get back to. Very, very important to understand that compassion and empathy and value for human beings is such a driving force in every aspect of this world. And I want to, my challenge as being a servant heart and a servant to Jesus Christ is to just say, you know what, we need to get back to that core value, that core relational value where we're adding, empowering people, we're strengthening them, we're lifting them up. And we are relational with them. We're integrating them and not disintegrating them.
That's a great phrase for all of us too.
Yes.
Especially me when I get impatient.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the go. How did you come to that understanding of life?
I was in education for 25 years and had a wonderful time working in the school system, but I always wanted to be involved more. There was always so much more out there that I felt that was pulling me. And through a lot of prayer and over about a 2-year period, I finally decided that what I needed to do was focus on being the servant heart and being the person that wakes up each day and says, what can I do to empower and lift other people? And living my life that way, living as a living testament of the Bible, and also just living as someone who is giving before he's taking. And so in doing that, I started Step Up from an athletic end, because athletics was a huge part of my life. So it did go into that. But as I went forward, I realized that there's more than just that. It's more than just an athletic approach to positive interaction. It's about empowering people from all walks of life. Parents, people that are coming out of incarceration, people that are dealing with addiction issues. We have to lift those people up and empower them.
What does it mean to empower? I hear the word so frequently. I want a good definition from your point of view.
I think there's a couple things that come to mind. First of all, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, and that is that I think people search out for significance. They want to be impactful in the world. They want to make impacts. And if people don't know how to do that, sometimes they choose negative ways to make impacts. You know, I do in coaching, I like to be impactful. I choose a positive way in coaching and in working with kids and being a leadership role. So I think that we have to tell people that, hey, you can be impactful in a positive way. Let's get that direction going. The second part of that whole empowerment piece is not only making them impactful, but feeding into their ambition for consistency and success in their life. Finding those consistencies and success. And then the final aspect of that is just feeding that ambition with education, with getting them in contact with the right people, and just leading them on and giving vision to that life journey. That's what empowering is adding and giving vision to that life journey for them.
When you encounter someone who has chosen the dark side, who is off the tracks, or however you care to say it, how would you use this, or could you use this with a person that may or may not want to get back and take a different direction?
I think the number one thing that you have to do is you have to loosen up that circle of trust for them. If I walk into a life, if you're on the dark side, and we walk into an interaction where we're establishing a relationship, you don't know me, you're not going to trust me. That small, tight little circle of trust, which is probably only you, has got to be loosened up and opened up. They have to feel that they can take a risk and break off one small piece and give it to me, break off another piece, and then through that relationship, I can encourage them to start breaking off bigger pieces.
Of distrust?
Of trust.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Of trust and giving it to other people. And therefore that loosens that bond so that we can work in. So once we've established trust, then it's let's roll up our sleeves and let's take a look at your life and let's equip you with a foundation. Let's equip you with the ability to handle controversy. Let's equip you with stability. And let's also create an environment that is unique to you that can be successful.
What does it mean to be unique to you? I mean, from a coach's or a helper point of view, or a servant point of view.
Well, my life journey is very unique. Your life journey is very unique. I don't want you to aspire to be me. I don't want to aspire to be you. I want you to make the most of what your life journey is going to be. So I'm not going to fill you full of, I've done this and I've done that and I've had all these successes and you need to be like me. All right, let's take where you are and let's make it your life journey. Let's make this a unique, successful adventure. The other aspect of that isn't when you talk to people that are leading an at-risk life or on the dark side, as you say it, we need to make sure that they understand that success isn't defined by a career or the amount of money they make or all this accumulation of stuff. Success is really integrity. It's leading a positive life. It's setting that bar high and living a life of value where people look at you and want to be like you. And people will laugh when they look, why would anybody want to be like me? Think of it. Let's create that picture so that people want to be like you. I think you can do that, and I think you can live that way.
But what does integrity mean nowadays? I know what it means to me, but what does it mean to you or in the wider culture?
I think to be fair, integrity, first of all, we talk about integrity being the skill above all skills. It's leading a life based upon a set core value and leading that life consistently. And when that value is challenged, you choose the value over that challenge. And the other thing, what we tell, especially to young people, is, integrity isn't living a perfect life, because none of us are capable of doing that. It's a matter of having patterns of positives, and it's a matter of recognizing when you mess up and getting back on track again. It's kind of like waking up and going down a narrow path, knowing that there are going to be bumps along the way, and making sure that you step over that bump, you go around that bump, but you continue to go forward. You don't run backwards and hide. and you don't wake up every day and trip over the same bump.
Do you, in all your coaching years, have you developed different ways to develop different personalities? Or does the same approach work with everybody?
It doesn't, and that's the challenge of coaching nowadays. When you walk in front of a group, let's say you have 40 or 50 players, you have to, right off the bat, you have to understand that 40% of them come from broken homes.
Oh, gee.
That most of them don't have a male figure in their lives. Some of them are yelled and screamed at. Some of them come from very, very good homes. So right off the bat, you have such an eclectic group that is motivated so differently. So getting back to what we talked about being relational, is my job as a coach is, as quickly as possible, get to know the personalities of my players and what motivates them. And I need to have a consistent approach so that they trust, so that they have security, and they know what to expect from me. Because if their life is full of distrust, full of insecurity, and not to know what to expect from adults, they're off balance. But I want to create as consistent an atmosphere as I can as a coach, so that they feel comfortable in that atmosphere.
When you're coaching a team, though, you can't, or do you, personalize the training? You know, everybody has to do something together, right? I mean, warm up or whatever they are. But if one person's totally rebellious or totally frightened, how do you integrate either type into the group? One who's going to do pushback.
A lot of things.
Yeah.
First of all, physical touch.
To get the attention?
To get the attention.
Or to break the negative
break,
thought pattern.
Keep going. All of the above. Physical touch is extremely important in intimacy and coaching. If guys are acting up, or they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, that physical intimacy, the eye contact, the calmness will deplete that situation. The other thing is respecting that right of that person to act out and allowing them time if they need it, and then bring them back in. But again, it's consistency and it's calmness. And if you create that integrity-based, consistent environment, that person's going to stick out. They have two choices. Either they join in on this, or they step back. And if they step back, as a coach, now they've identified themselves. Now you have to do a little more one-on-one and say, you know what, I want you a part of this. What do we need to do to make this an environment that you can be a part of for everybody?
So yours isn't fear-based teaching, it's collegial.
Yeah.
Right. Collegial.
The old school scream and yell and degrade that doesn't work. It doesn't last very long.
Have you ever tried it?
You know, in my early days, because I was modeled that from coaches when I was younger, I kind of thought that was the way that all coaches were. And I found out very quickly that was not the direction that, number one, that I wanted to go in. And if I can share a little bit about my life.
Please.
I was brought up in a very abusive home. And so getting yelled at and getting beaten and getting degraded was a daily occurrence. So when I went to football practice, or I went to basketball practice, or any sport that I played, if the coach was yelling at me, I tuned him right out. It went over my head. I disrespected him. I didn't follow him. And it's kind of a running joke. Even with my high school coach now, I still have contact with him. He always questions, why weren't you tougher than I thought you were? And I don't want to hurt him because he's older now, he's retired. But what I want to say to him is, if you would have just put your arm around me instead of screamed at me all the time, I probably would have ran through walls for you. But I was tired of getting yelled at, and I came to practice for some sanity, not to continue to be in that mode of screaming and yelling. I needed a break. Fortunately, I was able to channel a lot of that anger and aggression onto the football field and get it out. And I learned the redeeming values of that. But it took a long time for me to learn how to trim back that tension and that anger.
What happens if you have an outstanding football player, outstanding athlete, say, and then he is in some kind of a crash or something where he has to spend a lot of time in the hospital? Anyway, he does get better and functional, and he can play football, but he's never at that stellar level again. What do you do? Do you take him I can't imagine having the conversation. How would you talk to him?
I think that for everybody, we talk about life being a journey. And we don't know how things are going to change in our lives, but understanding that the values that they learn in the time that they got to compete or the things that they've achieved so far, those are going to come back around again. They come full circle. This may not have been his moment, but his moment is coming. I think of Andrew Maxwell, who's in the local, he's a Midland kid from the Midland, Michigan area, played at Michigan State. His senior year, ends up not losing his starting position as a senior, losing his captain, everything pulled out from under him. This was just not his time. It was detrimental. I'm sure that he had days that he just wanted to walk off that field and keep on walking because all his work, everything that he'd aspired to do, got pulled out from under him. But what Andrew understands, and he gets it, is there's going to be a reason for this. There's going to be some reason for me to get up and go forward. My time hasn't come yet. And for him, he's still climbing. His time's going to come. And that adversity situation is a strength that you and I can't replicate in his life. And if he can weather that storm, there's nothing that he can't accomplish.
Do you think there are, when you say my time, it wasn't his time or it will be his time, do you think that there's, I don't want to say waves, but there are what my grandma used to say, the ups and downs of life. But there are times when it is your time and times when nothing is working. Mm-hmm. And do you wait them out, or can you accelerate them or slow them down if they're good, or is it just not something we can have an effect on?
Well, I think you bring up a great point. When I'm working with any people, any clients, I talk to them about peaks and valleys. That's what we call it, is peaks and valleys. And we talk about number one, being proactive, understanding, just the realization that you're going to have peaks and valleys, right? And so you have to think out ahead. You can't think day to day because you've got to be proactive for these peaks and valleys. So when people are in valleys, they have to learn and use their foundation to keep filling that hole up to get back on track on their lifeline. But then the same thing, when things are high and things are rolling, they also have to understand that I can't be walking on the top part all the time, that eventually this is going to level out a little bit, and I'm going to enjoy the ride, but I'm also going to understand that there is a flat line that I will get back to.
Or downline.
Or downline. And so there's this constant, in a positive way, there's this constant realization that this is my line and I'm going to get back to it. And I don't want to even stray off at 1 degree for a long time. Otherwise, way down the road, I'm going to be way off. And I also, if I'm climbing, I don't want to climb so far away from who I really am that when it comes down, I don't know how to react. I don't know who I am.
In my life, what I've learned, learned a lot about the dark, the downsides and having to, develop inner strength to handle various things. But I always thought everybody was happy. I was like really, up there somewhere. And so a big surprise to me earlier on that, no, it isn't. A lot of struggle, a lot of setbacks, a lot of unhappiness, this, that, the other. But only in the last few decades have I come to realize that when in my own life things are going really well, I now tell myself, enjoy it. Relish these moments because it's likely, at some point in the future, it will be changing and the same thing in the dark. I kept, okay, we're really down here, okay, maintain yourself, maintain the effort or whatever. And I think it makes me a lot more, I wouldn't say accepting. I used to call it log rolling in life, that you're on a log and you're running down the river and you keep having to change, in order to stay on top of the log. Otherwise, you're going to be pitched by some unexpected happening. When some unexpected happening happens to you, what do you say to yourself? How do you think about it?
Well, I think first of all, the key is to slow life down. I always enjoy in the Bible when Christ talks about be still. And I talk to people about that too. I said, let's slow down. If things are going great, be still. If things are struggling, slow down and be still. Listen to what your spirit is telling you to do, and go at a pace that you do it in a way that you're going to empower yourself to come back up or get back down. So you've got to slow your life down. We do this. How many times when things are going well do you feel like it spirals? That log gets rolling really fast sometimes. And then also when we're in the worst possible situation, we're rolling just to stay on top of that log. What we want to do is we want to go back and forth and get that log stabilized. So we need to slow down to understand that. When things aren't going well for me, I am saying that. I'm saying be still and slow down. When things are going very well, I'm very extremely thankful, but I'm also asking, let's keep this in perspective. Let's keep this at a pace that's going well. And with at-risk groups, when they start making progress or having success, I'm kind of that buzzkill for them, because I'm teaching them, I want you to slow down a little bit too. Enjoy it, but let's not blow this all once. You know, let's let this grow. Let's let this evolve. This is a wonderful bonus, but again, we want to keep going forward, but we want to go forward at a safe pace where this will be productive for us.
So you think it's sort of a flat line in the deviation from. And I always think about it, I don't think of the flat line. I just think about where it is on the wave or whatever.
I always start with a flat line so that they know that there's a consistency.
Interesting. Yeah.
But the line is the line sometimes is huge loops.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's scattered. It's almost like a seismograph. But the key that I always talk to with people is getting back on that straight line, that narrow path. And I say narrow path because if you're on the wide path, you're all over the place. If you can get on the narrow path going forward, that means that you have your values locked in place. You have your perspective, your foundation, you're patient, and even though it may stray a little, you know where the path is, you see it, and you can get back on that path again.
Now, how do you apply it in marriage?
I think a couple things in marriage. Number one is you have to work very hard to be relationally as one, and work very hard to get that relational intimacy. I think communication is an extremely important part of successful marriages. And again, going back to the fact that our communication skills are lacking somewhat as a society, I think that that's a good core starting point. When I work with couples, we can do a lot of he said, she said for a long time, but the goal is for us to run out of things to talk about and to start to blend that together so that we're sharing concepts instead of sharing individual ideals. And so what we want to do is break those down so now all our concepts are shared. That doesn't mean we have to agree on everything, but we understand each other.
The philosophy of the viewpoint?
Yes. And you know, the other part of that is that relational intimacy, all the little tiny nuances in marriage that we take for granted that we have to constantly be relearning. And I always tell men, because I work with a lot of men, is you need to be dating your wife through the entire marriage.
That is brilliant. And the same for women.
Yes, but I'm just saying from the men, talking
Right.
to men, if you don't feel like you're dating your wife, then you're not doing it. You're not honoring her. So I have a dating relationship with my wife.
Oh yeah, tell us about it.
Well, you know, you do those kind of things. You make sure that you take her out. You make sure that you're full of surprises. You make sure that you're patient. You make sure that you are not selfish all the time. And that you also remind yourself to communicate. All the little things that want to make her to keep interest in me still after 28 years, you know?
But do you have a time during the week where you communicate, or time during the day, or just when necessary?
We do a lot. Well, our Tuesday night's a date night. Obviously, we'll go out and do movies, but we also do devotionals together, and we tend to do our devotionals in bed before we go to bed, so that we end our day together in a relational way. And so the devotional is kind of like that chance to breathe, chance to get on the same page. The other thing is we are adventurous and we are best friends, and we work very hard at the friendship aspect of our relationship just as much as we do everything else.
What does it mean to work? But very quickly, because I've got to close out.
When work is a positive thing, meaning work to me is just a conscious effort. We're both making a conscious effort.
All right, thank you, Kurt. So much to say, so much to say. Life is a journey. Helpers need to help people find their journey and to help them develop the abilities to maintain self-discipline and high standards, and a collegiality, today's my day, collegiality with other people. It's important to make eye contact. It's important to have the relationship. It's important to, at all times, be present, to listen, to understand, to cut people slack if they go off the deep end. And I love devotionals with your wife beforehand. Date your wife, date your husband, date your friends, my friends. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next week.
To contact Junia, send her an email at info@juniadone.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadone.com. Thanks for joining us. See you next time for Uncommon Sense with Junia Doan.
Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.